My name's Rob King, and I graduated from Fairfield in 1980. I was the president of the club my senior year, and I was a member of the club for my entire time at Fairfield. And I started with the Fairfield Rugby Club in September of my freshman year, and I think, in fact, the first practice that I went to was not on Broward Field. It was actually down on the hilly lower field that today is right by, I think, where the Russian Studies building eventually was built. So we played games on Broward Field, but actually at that time we were actually practicing a little bit on the lower hilly field. I had an older brother who played rugby in college and actually was playing for Old Maroon, which was the Fordham Club in New York City. And he had told me how much fun I would have if I played rugby at college. And so, not knowing all that much about the game, but knowing that I wanted to be involved in some type of sport and some type of extracurricular activity, I showed up to rugby my freshman year and had fun the first day I was there, and spent an incredible 4 years as a member of the club, and eventually was obviously a member of the leadership team on the club as well.
What was it about playing rugby that appealed to you so much?
Well, first off, what was incredibly fun about rugby was that the running, the pace, the speed of it. I was a soccer player in high school, and in fact, my high school team, we were state champions in New Jersey when I was a senior, and I loved any sport that had running associated with it, and rugby was kind of that great combination of the running and the speed of soccer, and then the physical aspect of football. So for me, from just a pure sports perspective, the speed, the requirement for kind of a combination of the capacity to run and have kind of cardio capability, and then with just the great aspect of running into people, was just a magic combination. Part of the magic of Fairfield Rugby, both as underclassmen and then eventually as a senior, was that fellow students and members of the club were the captains, were the officers of the club, and I always found that really attractive as I went through school, knowing that you could not only participate in the sport, but that you could assume leadership roles, beyond the traditional roles that were available probably in any sports team, anywhere. So I found that to be really attractive, and being the president of the Fairfield Rugby Club was exciting, and we were really one of the larger organizations on campus. In fact, I think at the time, other than the student association on campus, the Fairfield Rugby Club probably was in fact the largest student organization. It may be that today as well. So being the president and being in a leadership role, was a lot of responsibility, not only with the members of the club and my friends and players, but essentially, I was the face to the administration, and that always wasn't fun, but it had to be done, and it was a great leadership opportunity that I think helped me as I transitioned out of college life and started my business career. We had practice 3 days a week, I remember, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, and every Thursday, and you had to be there. So, and I think that, quite frankly, at least 90% of the members of the club were at every single practice. So, people were dedicated to playing on the team, and they were dedicated to getting better. So practices were run by the captains. I mean, the captains really demonstrated leadership every single day by organizing drills, organizing whatever the fitness routine was, and then ensuring during scrimmage that we were in fact building our skills and building our understanding of the game. So it clearly was a student-led enterprise on the field and off the field. I distinctly remember many of the teams that we played, and we had so many rivalries up and down the northeastern United States, whether it was through New England or the mid-Atlantic states. But we played Holy Cross, we played Boston College, We played Seton Hall, we played Iona, we played Yale, which was exciting. We played Columbia, we played Seton Hall, we played Rutgers, we played Lafayette. I just remember, fantastic rivalries with other terrific schools that we either all knew people who went there or had friends and relatives that went to those schools, and so those natural rivalries were really fun, and we really look forward to them.
And how well did your teams do against those schools?
So it's interesting. I can tell you I probably don't remember any of our records going back that long, but Fairfield always had a competitive rugby program. We, first off, I don't remember ever having a losing season, ever. We either had a 500 season or better than that. And, we always had a competitive team. And, if we didn't win the game, we certainly were competitive on the field. Another thing I'd tell you that was, I thought really helpful to us is that we always played rugby clubs. So in addition to playing colleges, we had obviously a great relationship with Essex, which was founded by a number of Fairfield alumni. We played the Connecticut Yankees. When the Danbury Rugby Club was founded in the late 1970s, we began a relationship with them. And so in addition to playing colleges that were competitive with us, we always had that aspirational environment of playing clubs that were primarily, I think, in the Met Union at the time, the Met New York Union, and that was exciting because those are always kind of games where you really had to step up your play because the folks that you were playing against were men who had been playing rugby probably for 10 years, and so. That was kind of more demanding, but also from a developmental perspective, I think helped us all become better rugby players. Well, first off, there weren't as many competitive sports on campus, and I think we were clearly known not only for having a terrific sport to participate in. We were also probably the closest thing to a fraternity that probably existed on the campus as well, and I say that constructively because the reality is that our club was known not only for I think being a great place to be involved in athletics, but rugby has had a history as a game of having a terrific social aspect associated with it. So we had an extended group of friends at Fairfield that obviously, if they didn't play, were almost auxiliary members of the club, and our parties were legendary, and we had great fun. So I would say the university community supported us. We, the hill at Broward Field and the sidelines were filled on the weekends. I mean, if it was a beautiful weekend and there was a rugby game, I mean, there was going to be a lot of people at Broward Field, and we had tremendous support. So it was a terrific environment. It was great. So I absolutely loved playing rugby at Fairfield. I loved it from a sports perspective, and I loved it from a camaraderie perspective. And when I got out of school, I played for a year for Old Maroon Essex. In fact, the gentleman I'm speaking to was my coach at the time. So I had an inauspicious short career with Old Maroon Essex. I then moved to California, and I lived in California for almost 10 years, shortly after getting out of Fairfield. And while I didn't play when I was in California, busy having children and moving, kind of my professional career ahead, I actually ended up becoming friends with a number of people out west in the rugby community. So I had a number of friends that played for Ombak, which is a real famous club down in San Diego, Golden Gate out of San Francisco, and stayed close to rugby for quite some time. I spent about 25 years in the beverage industry in America, and eventually, through some of my associations with folks in the West Coast in rugby, I got to know some members of the USA Rugby Congress, and eventually was introduced to the head of the nominating committee for board members. And at the time, I was running a large business in the United States that had a large sports marketing element associated with it. So I've spent a lot of time in sports marketing over the past 15 to 20 years. So based on that, I was nominated about 4 years ago to join the board of USA Rugby, which is the governing body of the sport in the United States. And for the last 3 years or so, I've been on the board, and I'm also the chairman of the audit committee. So I've not only enjoyed my playing days in college and out of college, I've enjoyed my association with the sport for decades now, and I've really been privileged to be associated with the game on a national and international scale now for the last couple of years.
Great. So the beverage business is a good way to reintroduce the subject of the social side of rugby. Talk a little bit about the traditions of that at Fairfield when you were there, and specifically, how well do you think you held up your end of the bargain, measured against all of the Fairfield classes in terms of being great hosts?
Well, it's probably tough for me to measure myself against all Fairfield classes or our year, but certainly I think we held up very well based on maybe that 4 or 5 year cohort that we were most associated with. Because at the end of the day, when you get to school, you're a freshman, and so you're introduced to all the club members from sophomore year through senior year, and then as you're ready to leave the university, you're somewhat of a sponsor and an advocate for the younger guys who were coming up at the time. There's a couple things I just remember really well about being a part of Fairfield Rugby. So first off, just when you come in as an underclassman, just the openness, the friendship, and the spirit of camaraderie and fellowship that was extended by the older guys in the club was just absolutely fantastic. And people took it really seriously. People took it seriously that they would welcome freshmen and sophomore that were joining the club. And even though you might have been learning the game and you felt a little bit of uncomfortable on the field because you were either bringing a football or maybe a soccer or a basketball orientation to the game, I always found that the upperclassmen were patient. They would make sure that people didn't give up. If you were frustrated because you weren't making progress on your skills, guys would tell you, don't worry about it, just keep coming to practice, keep trying. And that I think outreach from upperclassmen that I saw was certainly demonstrated when I was an underclassman, and I think certainly for the guys that were a part of the leadership group when I was a senior, and then even the guys that were younger than me, I think they all demonstrated that commitment to new students and new members as people joined the club and then moved up in skill and responsibility. Last but not least, I would say the class of 1980 was more than competitive when it came to extending the legacy of Fairfield Rugby as a great social institution. I think our Halloween party, which was always run in the great room, was a notoriously great party. Our annual banquet was not to be missed. Notwithstanding jacket and ties, we always looked great, but we had absolutely wonderful parties. And then, our ongoing weekend celebrations at the beach at whatever house was established at that particular time as the house for hospitality after the games. We always did more than our best to make sure that our guest teams were well hosted, and that members of the extended Fairfield community enjoyed their association with Fairfield Rugby. So Pid was just a total character. I mean, I don't think there's any way to describe him other than he was an absolute total character. He was completely dedicated to Fairfield Rugby. And, I know that as an underclassman, Pid was always there if you had any questions about how to navigate your way through the university and if you had academic questions, or if you had questions on majors or particular classes or professors, you could always count on PID for insight. I know when I was an officer in the club, PID was a terrific resource on helping, I think, me as the president and the other officers ensure that we lived up to our responsibilities to our members, which was let's face it, was our number one responsibility, but also that we were, I think, sufficiently mature and wise when it came to dealing with the administration, and having someone associated with the club on the faculty or as a member of the administration of Fairfield, and being able to provide a little bit of insight and guiding hand was an important aspect of PID, and certainly not just for me, but I think everybody that knew PID over the years that he was associated with rugby. I mean, PID was a tremendous friend, and just went out of his way to help extend the legacy of Fairfield Rugby. Connect each year to the next year, connect each, let's say, cohort of every 4 to 5 years with the past, and looking towards the future. And let's face it, he was an icon in the last 50 years of Fairfield Rugby. I played in the centers for most of my time at school, either inside or outside center, and then I actually finished my senior year in the forwards. I was a wing forward, and not that I had any great passion to move into the forwards, but I thought it'd be a nice change, quite frankly, of scenery to finish out my year in a little bit different position. My recollection was, first off, great rivalries against Seton Hall, great rivalries against Southern Connecticut, Holy Cross. Playing against Boston College was a big deal for us as well. Either we went up there or they came down. And I may have mentioned before, either playing against Essex or playing against the Connecticut Yankees or Danbury, whether we were playing their A team or their B team, those were big deals for us. I mean, it was exciting for clubs to come back to Fairfield or us to go play them, because there were so many alumni of Fairfield that were on those clubs. So getting that that camaraderie, and then quite frankly that aspirational element of hey, if I want to play rugby when I get out of school, there are these clubs that you can join and sustain your playing days for many years to come. Well, certainly an exciting game for me that I remember was against Iona, and it was I think it was homecoming weekend or a key fall weekend in my senior year, and it was a really competitive game, and I think both teams were running up pretty high scores. And I was actually playing in the centers that time, and somehow, in the last minute of the game, I think Kevin Cochran was playing fly half at the time, and he broke through their line and passed it to me. And I don't know if it was luck or the other team just was exhausted or not, but somehow I was able to go in for a winning try, and the game ended about 30 seconds later, and it was a pretty exciting time for me, and one that I certainly relish, because there aren't too many times in my history as an athlete that actually I ever did anything that won the game for our team. So having done that against Iona was actually pretty fun. Probably a more notorious moment for me was we were playing in a tournament in the spring of my senior year down at Seton Hall, and it was a really good tournament. Columbia was playing, Seton Hall was playing, Kings Point, Rutgers, us, and a couple of other teams. And I actually think we ended up going to the finals in that tournament, and we came in second place. But what was certainly impossible for me to forget is I actually broke my leg at that tournament against Columbia. And I remember getting taken to the hospital at halftime, and the doctor did all the tests on me and everything, and put me in a fairly mediocre splint, and sent me back to the field. And an hour later, while I was watching the game, the Seton Hall police came to the field with their sirens going, asking who's that rugby player who had to go to the hospital before? And someone said, he's over there. So of course they came up to me, and the police said, you have to go back to the hospital. And I said, why? Well, they read your X-ray wrong. You actually, not only didn't you broke your leg, but you've also torn, the ligaments in your leg, and you need to immediately go back to the hospital. So that was not the greatest feeling in the world. And then when I did go back, and the doctor told me I needed surgery, having never had surgery before, I thought she meant, in the next couple of months or so, I was going to need surgery. And, I said, so, do I wait till I graduate and have that? She goes, no, you're having surgery tomorrow. It's like, well, that was not something that I was particularly excited about. So I probably went from the highs of the Iona game to the lows of breaking my leg. But, thank God I recovered, and I was actually able to play rugby again because I ended up playing, the next year when I got out of school, and I was okay.